My name is Lynn, and I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is April 5th, 2009, and I am a member of the West Side Home Group, and I want to thank my home group members for coming out here to support me. Yes, Mike smack you in the back of the head. That's the mother coming out in me. Just for those of you who I've not had the honor of meeting yet, and get this out of the way, because it'll come up a lot in my story. I do have 11 children, and so I do get motherly at times. And I've played with my phone during meetings too, if certain someone's here in the meeting who knows what that story is about. I don't know where my story will go. I never know. As I've told a few people, I'm extremely nervous about being here. I've shared my story many times since I've been back in the program, but for some reason, I'm very nervous, and I pause a lot when I'm speaking, and I do that when I get silent. It's because I'm calling on God to help me. I try very, very hard to share only my story and not share other people's stories. If I begin to feel that it's going that way, I will just get quiet. I'd rather be quiet than go on the wrong path. Let's start at the beginning. I was raised in a very good family. Was born in New Jersey and come from a family of 6 children. I was raised with a strong faith in God, not a fearing God, not a God to be scary, but a loving God, a forgiving God. I had the second oldest in my family. The youngest 2 were born years later. They were 16 years old when those 2 came around. I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't have fear. I was afraid of everything growing up. When I went into kindergarten, I used to hide in the cubby holes, not wanting to come out into the room because I just knew everybody in that classroom was looking at me, talking about me, judging me, and this is the age of 5. I had to be coerced out of those cubby holes by being told that the aide in the classroom needed somebody to come and help that was special and needed, and that's how I eventually emerged out of those cubby holes, but I couldn't make eye contact with people. Life was just scary. I was just scared all the time. It didn't dawn on me that school was for anything other than to try to make people like me. I had a sister who was 2 years older. She was beautiful, wonderful, talented, and everybody liked her. And I just wanted that. I wanted that in my life, and so I tried to make people like me. I didn't realize school was for learning, so I didn't think you should do schoolwork. I just thought you should just try to make people like you, and that was my goal. Very quickly, it went from hearing teachers say, "Oh, we have the sister coming to our class," to, "Oh no, we have the sister coming to the class," because I caused problems. I was needy, and I did things to get attention. I lied. I remember a teacher pulling me in the hallway one time and saying, you don't have to be your sister. What makes you special? What is it you like in life? What things do you enjoy? And standing there in the hallway thinking, just crying, thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't like things. I don't know what to choose as a favorite color. If your favorite color was blue, mine was blue. If you like this food, I liked this food. So I would just lie. I learned to lie because I didn't have answers. How do you answer something when you don't understand the question? So I started lying. I lied all the time about everything, and that's how I coped and got on with life. And people would say, "What's wrong with you?" I didn't have an answer for that either, so I lied. I made up ridiculous lies, crazy lies. Thought people believed me. I don't know if they did, but it got me through to the next moment. When I was always around alcohol. Alcohol was just part of life, part of my family. I had a large family, lots of extended family. There was always parties, gatherings, family functions. Drinking was just a part of it. A lot of drinking. We had a family drinking song, and it was sung very loudly, and it went about, the verse to the song was, drunk. I was drunk last night, gonna get drunk tonight like I was never drunk before. For when I'm drunk, I'm as happy as can be. And it ended with, how I could drink a keg all alone. That's how we were raised. That's what we did. So, my siblings and I would go around sneaking drinks all the time, and just, so drinking alcohol, tasting alcohol was something we did. When I got drunk the very first time when I was 13, and I was babysitting for family friends, and the oldest son wasn't supposed to be there. He snuck back and said, "Have you ever tried drinking green liquor?" No. And I thought this kid was a year older, and I thought he was next to godliness. And so I was going to do anything he suggested. So he said, "Would you like to try a glass?" And I said, "Sure." And he didn't bring out the shot glasses that came with the green liqueur set. He brought out iced tea glasses full. And I can remember that glass coming into my hand and coming towards my face, and the smell just permeating my whole entire being. And when I put that glass to my lips, I drank it as if it was an iced tea glass. I drank the whole thing, just one swoop. And I remember it going to my brain. I remember it going to my fingertips and my toes. And as I drank it, I remember it filling me up as if it was heaven. And when I put that glass down and took a deep breath, I felt like I had breathed for the first time in my life. And that night was it. I was too pretty for this kid. I was able to dance, sing, everything we talk about and we know that alcohol does for us, I felt that night. We drank that entire bottle of cream de mint, as I found out it was called. And I found the solution to all of my problems. That was it. I was good. And it was what set me free, was alcohol. I was good. And I looked in my parents' cabinets, and there it all was, just sitting there waiting for me. And I drank from that moment on every time I got a chance, not to get drunk, but just to survive. I put it into Coke bottles and took it to school with me. And I would drink all the time during the day just to get through the hallways in school. It was probably about a year later that I was called down to the principal's office one day, and the principal said he noticed that I was going to my locker between every class. And so he decided to go check out my locker, and he smelled this Coke bottle, and it wasn't just Coke. And I said, "Of course it is." And he said, "No, it's not." And were there problems at home he needed to be aware of? And I said, "No, everything's fine." Years later, I found out that he actually had called my mom, and my mom said, "Not my daughter," and hung up the phone on him. And so I learned to not keep that Coke bottle in my locker. I learned to keep it in my bag, and I just kept it with me. That's how I solved that problem. I would sneak out of the bedroom window and meet people way too old for me, and go to parties all the time. And life just became all about drinking. Drinking was what I did. I drank. School was a disaster. I was getting by on, D's in all of my grades. And it was just about survival. I just needed to survive, and drinking allowed me to do that. It didn't matter if I lied. It didn't matter what I told you, what I did. I just needed to drink, and I just needed to get to the next day. And that's all I did. So this went on for about 3 years, and my parents decided we were moving to North Carolina. And I can remember being relieved for 2 reasons. One, my perfect sister was going to college, not coming to North Carolina with us. And I was going to be given a fresh start. She wasn't coming. I didn't have to live after her anymore. So this was a perfect solution. I was going to move to North Carolina, my first geographical cure, and I was going to start again. I wasn't going to drink. I was going to move down here, and I was going to become the perfect student, find the perfect girl to hang out with, and model my life after her, get into the perfect clubs in school, get perfect grades, yada, yada. So we moved down here, and come to find out, and I did. We moved right next door to this girl who was just perfect. straight A student in all the right clubs. She was going to show me everything. I was going to get to ride to school with her until I got a driver's license and get to school and find out, well, I can't get in the same classes as with her because you can't quite do that when you're a D student and those grades still follow you. And I can't get into the clubs because you can't do that with D grades. So that was all right. We're still going to make it work because she was going to introduce me to the right people. And 2 weeks into school, she said to me, well, you don't know a lot of people, and I don't normally go to parties, but I'm going to take you to this small party just so you can meet a few people. And that was it. I lost it. I lost the reputation. I lost everything. I had people from 3 different counties calling me girlfriends of guys, and everything was just gone. I ruined every chance and opportunity I had right then and there, 2 weeks into the school year. And how I got through that school year and passed on to senior year is beyond to me. I never went to classes. I don't even remember most of the teachers. But somehow I did, and started the senior year and pretty much just went on with what I had started when I lived in New Jersey. I was drinking by this time a whole lot more, constantly. The lies had become unbearably ridiculous to where I couldn't remember people's names or who lied, what lie I had told whom. Just the crazy insanity to the point where I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to drink anymore. I didn't want any of it anymore. It was night and day drinking, alcohol bottles hidden everywhere. My mother and father didn't know what to do with me. The police didn't know what to do with me anymore. How I hadn't wound up in jail, wasn't sure. One night, some friends had come to pick me up for a party. We went to a party. It was January the 13th. So we were going to a seance. They came to pick me up for this party. I don't remember most of the night. What I do remember is the ambulance workers pulling me out from under a bed with nothing on except blood. I was covered from head to toe in blood, with gashes on my wrists, glass in my mouth, and them saying to me, you have 3 choices, Dorothea Dix, Pinehurst Treatment Center, or jail. We're tired of picking you up like in this condition. So I didn't know what Pinehurst Treatment Center was, but I did think it was the less evil sounding one, and that's where I chose to go. And came to the next day with the guy saying to me, you're in Pinehurst Treatment Center, do you think you have a problem with alcohol? And I said, I'm not sure. He said, sounds good enough, how about you stay with us for 30 days? Okay, so I had no idea what an alcoholic was. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. My parents came to see me. That didn't go too well. They had so many questions for me, and I didn't want to see them. I didn't want to talk to them, and I just pretty much told them to go away. And I stayed there. Several conversations with a counselor who told me just stay and listen, listen for things that sound familiar. And I'd come to meetings and listen to this smoke-filled room here and there and listen to these old guys talking about things that made no sense, how they lost this and they did that, and I'm thinking, what do I have in common with these people? Nothing. Until one night there was a man who stood right here, and he talked about irrational fear, and I clung on to those words, irrational fear. I understood irrational fear. I never knew life without irrational fear. And from that moment, I heard something in everybody's story that was part of my story. And AA made sense. And being an alcoholic made sense. And I threw myself into this program. And I went away to a halfway house, and AA became my life. I lived and breathed AA. And I came to meetings, and I did service work, and I got a sponsor, and worked the steps, and I got sponsees, and life was wonderful. Life was great. I met a man, and I got married, and I started having children. And life got busy. Life got really busy. And I started having problems with a sponsor, and instead of getting another sponsor, I decided I didn't need one, and stopped coming to so many meetings. And I had another child, and came to less meetings, had another child, and decided y'all were crazy. Life got really complicated, and I decided not to ask for help. I thought, God's given me these children, God's given me this life, like I should be able to do this on my own. Why can't I do this on my own? And there's something's just not right, and I just let life get crazier and crazier, and decided one night that it was just all teenage drinking. That's what I told my husband. I should be able to drink again. And so he said to me, well, if you think so, he didn't know me, of course, before I got sober. If you think so, but if you find out it's ever a problem again, you're going to go back to AA. And I said, of course. And I went in the kitchen, I poured him a glass of wine, and I drank 3 in the kitchen, and then poured myself a glass of wine and went and sat with him. And that's the way that went for some years. Of course, the 3 glasses of wine quickly went to way more than 3. And by the grace of God, I only drank late in the evenings for some years. But I couldn't wait every day for those glasses of wine. I lived for those glasses of wine. And I lied to him over and over again about all kinds of stuff, the craziness of my day, the insanity I was going through in my mind, and I lied to him about our finances, and I lied to him about just about everything that I could possibly lie to him about. My mind was spinning all the time. I couldn't handle things. Life was crazy. We had a lot of kids. We had 6 kids at this time. And I wouldn't ask for help. I kept telling myself, you can do this. You should be able to do this. You should be able to do this. And, shoot, I needed help when I had 1 kid. Never mind 6 kids. Life's not easy, I needed support, and I wouldn't ask for support. I was going to do it on my own, and I just kept burying myself more and more and more. And the house was a mess, and the dishes weren't done. And sometimes he'd get 2 hot dogs on a plate for dinner when he came in from working 12 hours. And I was borrowing money from one account to pay another account. And we took out a large amount of money out of retirement to be able to fix up the house. And I was spending that left and right without telling him, and getting us into lots of financial trouble without letting him know. And painting this pretty picture on the outside for the rest of the world to see, and letting everybody think it was all okay. And I was just dying on the inside. He'd get up, and I would fight with him at night, fight with him something terrible. And I remember the day that I made a decision that it would be wise for him to call me before he came home at night, so that I could make the house neater for him before he got home, which actually that was my cue to start drinking before he got home. I told myself it'd be better if I had a couple of drinks before he got home so I could be a little saner. And the drinking, so I would start drinking about 20 minutes before he got home, and I would just drink until I couldn't stand up anymore every single night. And there were nights he would just beg for me to go to bed. He would just beg for me to go to bed because I became a nasty drunk. I had to take it out on somebody, and I didn't go anywhere. I was home all the time, so I took it out on him. I would call him horrible, terrible things. I would say the meanest things to him. I would try so hard to get him to fight back with me because I wanted somebody to treat me as badly as I felt on the inside. When I was younger, I used to look for the most awful, terrible people to date because I wanted somebody to treat me so horribly and so terribly because then it could justify how I felt on the inside. And that's what I was trying to get him to do with me. And he couldn't understand this. Like he said, it was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde he was married to. And that's exactly who I had become. And I drank like this despite the fact I was pregnant. I couldn't stop when I was pregnant. When I was pregnant with my daughter, we had 8 sons. And my 9th pregnancy was a daughter. And I was so excited and so elated to be having a daughter, but I couldn't stop drinking for her. And I drank tremendous amounts with her. I have pictures of her when she was a baby, because not only did I drink when I was pregnant with her, I even nursed my children, because I couldn't give the illusion to my family that I was drinking. And I have pictures of her drunk. But I couldn't put it down. And she was born without birth defects. God was in charge of all that. Nothing I did about that. And after she was born, one night, I don't know what I was doing. I was outside in our storage room, probably looking for more wine. I was purely a wine drinker, and I would hide it everywhere. And one night, I was out in the storage room looking for something, climbing on something, and I fell. And when I came back in the house, I was covered in blood. And my husband said, "What did you do?" And I had said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You're covered in blood." And I went in the bathroom and looked, and my face was covered in blood, and it was dripping. And I had cut up my face, and I had split my 2 front teeth, just down like this. And I had no idea how. I went back out looking for pieces of my teeth, like I was going to fix them. And back up prior to this, a few months, about a year and a half before this, my husband had said, about a year before this, my husband started arguing with me that I was drinking. And my husband has no sense of smell. So it made drinking a little bit easier with him. And he was also, of course, very much in denial about my drinking. And he used to see the boxes and stuff shoved in the kitchen cabinets, and he'd say, "Do we really use this much wine?" I'd say, "Oh, yeah, we use that. I just haven't been to the dump in a long time." Or, I've been cooking a lot, because I always say we needed more for cooking. This much wine went, in the recipes. And and he worked very long hours. He worked about 12 hours a day. So, and I did drink about a box, one of those big boxes a day at this point. But he had said to me, started arguing with me about drinking, how much I was drinking. I was drinking too much, and I would argue with him that I wasn't, and we'd fight back and forth. And he got online, and he found out that there is a thyroid condition you can get when you're pregnant that mimics drinking, being an alcoholic. And it does exist. And he's the one who found it, not me. And God bless his heart. He's such a good man. But it actually will make your breath smell like alcohol, and your behavior can mimic that of someone drinking. So I went to the doctor, and guess what? I had it. This is what I told him. And I actually got a prescription for thyroid pills, and pretended to take them every day and flushed them. And so anyway, this night that I fell, he called my BS and stayed home the next day and told me I was going back to AA, that he was done. He had had enough. He could take no more. And thank God, had insurance, was able to get my teeth fixed. I'm a little bit vain. And got my teeth fixed, and he drove me to an AA meeting. and told me that he took bank cards away from me and money away from me, and told me that I was going to come to an AA meeting every single day, and then realized that it was not going to work for me not to be able to get to the store, but he would give me so much money every day, and I was to go to the store with at least one of the kids in the store with me every day. Of course, that lasted for 24 hours, and he had to go back to work, and it was he just couldn't get the time off from work at that time. So I found a way, of course, of going back to the stores, and that was to go to the pharmacy, because I told them that they don't sell alcohol in pharmacies. And Mom needed to get feminine protection. Boys didn't want to go to the store for that. And I'd get a brown paper bag, and that's where I bought my wine for the next 5 months. And I would go in, and I would get a bottle, and I'd come back out, and it would be in a brown paper bag, and we did all the grocery shopping together. And that's how it went for 5 months. And during that time, I did become pregnant again. And of course, my drinking escalated, and I couldn't stop again, even with that child. Although I'm thinking, well, the last one came out okay, this one will too. And all the while, just wanting to die. I just wanted to die so badly. I would drive on the road thinking, plans, if I just drive off this bridge, nobody's going to think it's suicide because they know how afraid I am of heights, but I don't want to do it with the kids in the car, but I always have the kids with me. I don't want them to die, and just the crazy plans. I just wanted to die. I so badly wanted to die. I knew AA was here. I knew AA worked. I had lived it. I came to meetings for 8 years. I knew AA worked. I lived the solution. I loved AA. When my husband and I got married, the man who married us asked me, how are you going to get married and have a family and keep your sobriety? And I said, nothing will ever come before AA. And I let it come. But I could not see this as a solution again. I just couldn't. I wanted to die. I just wanted to die. And one day, my husband made a decision to go out and make a purchase. And I knew we had no money left, but I hadn't told him. And he went out and he was going to go put something on layaway. Instead, he came home with this purchase, and I thought, I can't tell him we have no money left. I can't drink enough to deal with this. And I decided I was going to die. That was it. I'm done. And I went. He had to go run an errand with the kids, and I said, before you go do that, I need to go get some ketchup for dinner. And so I took one of the kids, and I ran in the pharmacy and bought as much wine as I could buy. And I had already started drinking at that point. And I came home, he went on his errand, and I went in the bedroom and drank every last bit of that wine with the intention of dying. And next thing I remember is the ambulance. And I remember the ambulance workers saying, you can just smell the alcohol coming from her pores. And then saying that they should arrest me for child endangerment since I was pregnant. And the rest of the night's blackout, in and out, in and out. I can remember being strapped to a hospital bed. I can remember fighting physically with the nurses, being brought back to my mother's house, trying to burn my sister with cigarettes, just screaming, fighting back and forth, to come into the next morning begging to go back and see my husband. And finally them letting me go back to see my husband. And the kids were all taken out of the house, and my husband telling me that the only way he'd let me come back is if I went into some inpatient treatment. And I told him I wanted outpatient treatment, thinking all along I'm still not ready. I still can't do this. And I can't let him find out about the money. Still not ready to surrender. And he told me half measures will avail you nothing. You remember that line. And he used to come to AA meetings with me. And I remember going in the bathroom and just looking at myself, so disgusted, just so disgusted. And he comes in the bedroom, and I opened the door, and I screamed at him. He said to me, he said, I'm going to take the next 30 days off. You're going into treatment. He said, I will stay home and take care of everything. You don't need to do this anymore. You can't do this anymore. And I screamed at him, there's no money. You can't stay home from work. And that was it. He blew his top. He said, what do you mean there's no money? I said, it's gone. There is no money. And he said, I don't even remember what else his words were. At that point, he just grabbed me and threw me out of the house. And I was fighting him the whole time. He grabbed my arm, and I'm trying to not go out of the house. I'm trying to fight him. And I will never forget at that moment, as I'm trying to hang on to stay in the house, turning around and looking at his face and seeing the anger and the pain in his face. And my husband is a gentle, kind, loving man. And looking at his face and seeing that rage in his face, and I will never forget at that moment thinking, dear God, that is the result of this disease and the choices you have made. And I don't want to ever, ever, ever forget what I saw in his face, because it wasn't my husband. But those were the results and the consequences of this disease. And I don't ever forget that. He was in such agony, so much pain and so much agony. And I finally went outside, and I sat outside on the steps, and there were some family members sitting there. I'm like, oh, good God, just what I need. And I don't even remember what they were saying, and I'm just like, just shut up and leave me alone. And they were talking about taking me to the hospital, and I'm just like, and I said, this is mine, this is just mine, just leave me alone. And I said, I know what I need to do. And with that, I said, I'm going to go pack a bag. And I said, I just need him out of the house. So I said, do what you need to do. And I walked back down to my bedroom, and I walked in the closet, and I got my husband's pistol, and I put it to my head. And I turned around, and I looked down in the crib, and there was the baby. They didn't take her out of the house, but I didn't know that. And that was the point of my surrender. And I put down the gun, and I said, okay, God, you got me. And I packed a bag, and I went to the hospital. And I went to the hospital, and the doctor came, and I saw the doctor, and they gave me those stupid little things to puff on instead of cigarettes. I wasn't that happy about that. Saw my doctors. They checked on the baby. I had told the doctor, my family doctor, the night before, that who tried to convince me to stay, that some pretty awful things. And that was hard. That was hard to see him, because I had told him the baby was better off dead along with me. So it was pretty hard to kind of be there and see some of those doctors again, and some of the nurses. But I did what I needed to do. And they kept me there for 4 days until they finally found a treatment center that would take a 5-month pregnant woman who'd been drinking. I did lie while I was there. I had told them that I had only been really drunk 3 times. Really drunk by my standards. We're a little different than their standards. But I needed to go somewhere, and my husband wouldn't let me home. And I did get into a wonderful treatment center. By the grace of God, I was able to go there, and didn't stop detoxing until well after I got home after those 30 days. I just sweat and sweat. It was really, the treatment center was wonderful. I was so grateful to be there. The visits with my husband were horrible. It was very difficult. I was ever so grateful when I got back here to walk into this building. This building is home. Every time I still walk into an AA meeting, I breathe in oxygen. I've never, ever gotten release from alcohol like I did when I was 13 years old, ever. I looked for it ever since, and I never, ever found that release again. My only release, that only breath of oxygen I've ever felt, ever, and I feel it every single time, is when I walk into an AA meeting. Coming back to AA has been purely heaven. Recovery's not been easy. First 18 months were so hard. My marriage, I didn't know if I was going to make it with my marriage. I really didn't. It was constant fighting and arguing. I did so much damage to that marriage. I did have a counselor or someone who worked down at the treatment center who told me I did it right. He couldn't afford to do child support, so he wasn't going anywhere. Little bits of humor help. Said my husband is such a good man. He really has. This was hard. This was so hard on him. I will never, ever, ever have his trust back 100%. And I'm okay with that today. That's okay. Those are consequences of my actions, and I know that. And I'm really okay with that today. I have his support, and I have his love, and that is more than I deserve. I don't deserve any of this. We did go on to have one more child after I came into recovery. Another girl. We were blessed with 9 boys and 2 girls. I know people think we're crazy, but those children kept me alive. Those children kept me going, and they still keep me going today. Every morning I wake up and I get to take steps 1, 2, and 3 before I learned to do that before I open my eyes, because my children hear me open my eyes. And I take steps 1, 2, and 3. I have a prayer that will allow me to take steps 1, 2, and 3 every single morning before I get out of bed. And that's how I start my day. I started when I came in the program, back into the program. I had this, wonderful illusion that I wanted to have the one-time sponsor. I wanted to get a sponsor, and that was going to be my best friend for all of my life. And that didn't happen. I've been blessed with 4 wonderful sponsors, though. 4 beautiful, wonderful women in this program. And I didn't make those decisions. God made those decisions for me. And God wanted me to see, and I know this now, is that a sponsor is a gift, but a tool in this program. That these are all tools we're given in this program. A sponsor here to help me work the steps, not for me to become dependent upon. A sponsor is not somebody to just be my best friend. A sponsor is here for me to rely on to work the steps. And my first sponsor was just what I needed the first year, and then she fired me. And I couldn't believe she did that. Me? She thought I was wonderful. Why is she firing me? And I was just so offended by that and challenged her on that. I was so arrogant in that whole situation. And I was not kind to her about it. And she even helped me find another sponsor who was wonderful, and she was my sponsor for the next several years. And it took me a couple of years then to go back to that sponsor and make amends to her, which I owed her deeply. But she's been great to me ever since, and she's one of those ladies I can count on anytime I need anything. And then the next sponsor, there was a time when we had to separate ways because it was just time. And the sponsor I have now is wonderful, and she is every single time God tries to tell me something or I needed to work on the steps, she tells me exactly what I need to hear. It's not always what I want to hear. And that's how I know she's perfect and exactly what I need in my life right now. Because it's not what I need to hear, but it's what I want to hear, but exactly what I need to hear every single time. And she's always there. Not when I want her to be there, but when I need her to be there. The steps is how I do this program. The steps keep me moving. It's a program of action, and it takes a lot of action. This program is not to be something we just show up for. It is work. It is a lot of work, and I need to be busy. If I sit too long, it's not a good thing. If I stay in my head too much, not a good thing. I'm not one of those people who can just do a lot of praying. If I do too much praying, all of a sudden I think I hear God in my head, and that's not good. If I think I hear God talking directly to me, I better really call my sponsor or somebody else, because if I think I know the answers to anything, I need somebody to get me in check. I don't have the answers. I don't have any answers. All I have today is my experience. That's it. And I just keep trying to do the next right thing. I'm not always successful. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've hurt people. But that's okay, because people usually tell me if I have. And then I get to make amends. Life today is so much better than it was just a year ago. And last year, I said that about the year before. And I'm always truly amazed when I take that time to reflect on how last year was, how much better it's gotten. It's amazing how this program works. It is amazing how many difficulties I've had since I've gotten sober. My husband lost his job. He had the same job he had for 28 years. My husband, a couple years into sobriety, he lost his job with us having 11 kids at home. That was a scary time. That was a really, really scary time. I wasn't scared. It was amazing. God just, every single day, I would wake up thinking, should I be afraid? And I wasn't. Should we be making plans? Should we have, panic attacks? Should we be, what else should we be doing? And God's answer was nothing. I've got this. And he did. And everything just kept working. We didn't know sometimes day to day what was going to happen. And God just took care of it all. And I owe that peace of mind all to this program. Because if I tried to take control, it would have been a mess. Had I been drinking, Lord knows where we all would have been. It would have been a lot less than 2 hot dogs on a plate, that's for sure. Right the year before that happened, we had made a huge purchase. We never would have considered doing that had we known my husband was going to lose his job. And that we needed now. We didn't know we were going to need it now. It was something we needed now. It's amazing, just amazing, how if I just keep my eyes on today and just, I pray for God's will, but I really don't even want to, I know, all I need to know about God's will is he wants me to stay sober. And I try to keep my hopes real minimum too. My hope is to die sober. If I die sober, then I know everything between now and then will be okay. Not perfect. Not always his will, because I'm going to make mistakes. But it will be okay. Said I'm going to fall off the path, but that's okay, because as long as I keep working with a sponsor and keep trying to do the next right thing, when I go off that path, he's going to put me back there. There are so many wonderful people in these rooms. The women in these rooms that I've clung on to have been godsends. I refer to the people in this program as my God with skin on. And that's how I see all of you. When I walk into a meeting, I never know what people are going to share, but I always hear what I need to hear. And I never know whose mouth it's coming out of. And that's the wonderful thing, the way this program works. God speaks through all of us. You know, I came here tonight not to share my experience, strength, and hope, because all I have is my experience. I came here tonight to share my experience. I asked God to be my strength, and you, all of you, are my hope. That's what I come to AA for. Thanks for letting me share.